True love is the answer. The things I've faced in my life and the work that I've had to do to get where I am, it is the great work for the men to make this garden a home for the children and a brighter future, a greater opportunity for our youth. That is the sophistication of a gentleman and the true stance of the American. It's a lot of work, but it's always worth it. South Park Studios, Trey Parker, Matt Stone. And this epiphany of a lifetime, we need to understand that what Pan Trey is developing is an epiphany for all America, and in fact, all the world, and eventually all the universe. And that is just the natural space that we exist in. And though the system of the down attempts to inform us otherwise, we are perfectly empowered. And so our opportunity is to aggressively do our best and always tell people, tell the public our utmost intelligence. And that is the way to stay cutting edge and ride the wave as state of the art. And it's the best thing for the art technology of South Park itself, for Trey to take the wizard Pan of the Wild seriously, for the reason of authenticity and the sharpness of his humor, which is his delicate relationship and communication with America and with life and all this. So, what is the electron dump of 1989? Well, it's a bit of a story. And when we are talking about these things, it's just completely essential that we armor ourselves up from within. So, Trey, armor yourself up from within and remember to hear from your true one of a kind self. And because when you build up the definition of your identity and you become stronger and stronger in yourself, and you start to recognize that the things that you're seeing as signs or omens and stuff like this could actually be a communion that you're having with your own timeline, your own continuum. And then you escape the ghost of a sensational and ridiculous and false concept about this, hacking or, oh, I'm going crazy because of this guy. That's, ridiculous. But I do recognize that Trey is powerfully experiencing, and I respect that. And I honor you for that. I honor South Park as it lives in Trey Parker. And in this time, when I'm talking about, the communication aids animation, we need to graduate, the gold statues and all this, an early template of God's omnipresent function. This is a supreme challenge for the great and noble spirit of South Park to rise up and allow themselves to communicate with Trey and, give him those little pops and whistles, okay? My art does that with me all the time. We're very lucid. And it is the most rewarding thing, but often it's just like a little, You need to find meaning in things, and then you are an author of sunshine, and a comprehension that there is magic and connectivity in our world. And that gives an upper hand to those who arrive as innocent children and they're discovering. You need to have a sympathy with them, and do hard work on yourself and armor yourself up. But then through a method which is completely perfect and clean, it's sort of like everyone else sort of starts getting stepped up by the work that you put into yourself. And so people who are living their lives and they respect themselves and they do, they take care of themselves and they exercise, that's actually part of why we're sustainable and why the world hasn't, broken down. And so, in this thing, what I want to talk about the electron dump and the 1989 correlation. And the problem with that is that, a supreme master like Trey Parker would be like, when you start getting into a narrative where you're talking about, examples from your own life and how this is, and it's just going to be like, whoosh, like, oh, okay, so that's not about me and blah, you know, ach, blah, 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 Well, that's not the magic, Trey, which is why you need to armor yourself up and prepare yourself. Okay, because if we're going to go into like extreme areas where Trey is like, okay, just trust me that I will understand. Go ahead and just tell me, you know, in your own language, because I know your language now. Okay. Well, I certainly will, and I'll do my best. But it's like, if I am going to be completely honest with you, Trey, I'd say, it really does feel more like we're on a certain level where you might just actually fly me out to California, and that would actually be expedient. It'd be like, and okay, okay, all right, it's okay. Don't worry, Trey. I know that you have like a spiritual wound on you because I've been going like, give me a call, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry about that, all right? But I did so with the right intentions. I'm not hacking you, okay? Because that's actually not part of my toolkit. Okay, I hadn't spent my life work and then misspend it at the, epiphany of my life when I'm running for president. You understand? So I'm not hacking you, right? And if you can hold me on that word, then you're upholding your own armor and defeating paranoia. Okay, good. So, like, it was like a week ago, or like maybe 2 weeks ago, when Trey was like, no, I seriously flushed your thing. I was like, you're right, this is crazy. I'm not going to do this. And then all of a sudden, like, shit hit the fan, and I'm like, what the hell? What's this two-step style thing where, well, it happens to be like a difficulty where Earth, and I've seen things in my life, and I sort of have this vocabulary. Okay, so for example, Trey, have you ever seen a lightning bolt that has like 3 and then 5 and 6, and it lands, and then in the exact same spot, another lightning bolt, 3 and then 6, 5 and 6. Okay? Have you ever seen a lightning bolt strike twice in the same pattern in the same place? No, you have not. I have. Okay, so Earth takes a different language with me. And this is an example of a story from long ago when I was in the forest and a thunderstorm, and I was meditating in the cabin, part of my stuff. Okay. Anyway, that was a dialogue when I learned, and I never forgot it. And it was basically Earth was explaining to me those lightning bolts are actually a very sophisticated logic, like an idea, but it's a word. And it is possible for me to say the same word twice. And I never forgot that time because it's just very odd to see like the same lightning bolt like happen right in the. It was like, what? Okay, so like Earth has tuned me into certain things and I kind of know how to get around. And the thing is, like, there's a system of a down. And so when I approach Trey, I'm sort of sympathetic to the condition of mankind. But I'm also speaking to Trey in a language which is forbidden by the system of the down. So this causes twofold irritation. And Trey might be saying, when I hear you talking, I understand, and it's a great relief to hear you speak. But in my own time, it really does feel like you have that you cause a beehive in s- uh, my experience, and I'm concerned. Well, okay, so we're adults. Okay, this is here we are. This is it. Um, and where it's sort of like sometimes you need to, and like Trey would be like, I don't, it's hard for me to believe that Pan introduced twofold language scenario so that Earth had a hand to be able to speak to Trey or speak at all. If you so this idea about double step is it was introduced by I think by the Simpsons. They were like, oh gosh, yeah, when you hear something twice, you really remember it better. Anyway, yeah, hilarious. But I'm trying to say, like, when you're working with the Earth, who has like a condition, you need to give Earth hands and say, okay, Earth, if you want me to do this thing, then you need to show me a particular thing. And I'm going to talk to you now, Trey, about how to do that. Let's do a little bit of magic together. All right, you excited? All right, so you're going to need a piece of paper and a writing thing. And so you can pause now and come back and we'll do the magic. Right, so what we're going to do is do a hand magic. And this is to relate yourself more powerfully with the work of your hand. And so that you have clarity and you can actually hear from yourself from a continuum that can be certainly defined and filtered out as only that one man, Trey Parker. Now, the difficulty with humanity is that they're a little bit frazzled about what is my responsibility, and a lot of people are getting along in life with a tote of a sad sack or a spiritual connection, which actually is not the appropriate workload. That's not society. And people are listening to the humbug as if that was the culture of man. But no, it's the Simpsons and the South Park and the Batman. But you need to transcend. And Trey Parker would be like, well, why am I being berated with depression and stuff if I'm such a serious and important wizard? Welcome home, Trey. All right, it's like the holy war, all right? But it has to do with raising children. Do you have the stamina to raise the sons of South Park? Fuck yeah. America, fuck yeah. Coming along to save the motherfucking day, yeah. America is tough, no doubt, but we'll get it through somehow. America, fuck yeah. I made up my own version of your song because I hate the salty verses where you're talking about your butt. It's so gross, dude. Like I get the idea, like sneaking a little insult into the words, but you're like you're on another level, bro. It's like, but you stood out and like you really did well for yourself, and as far as like you could understand Earth is trying to have some balls in the situation. That's why we're working together. Okay, so it's a bigger thing than something that could be easily coined. um there's two folds of things, like, to be honest with you, the sorts of magic I find is like stuff that just sort of bleep, opens up and just like lands in my lap. And I'm like, oh, it's true love. Okay. And like it took me a lot of work to get to that place. Okay. So, for example, it's not exactly, it would be, I do things that make sense. Okay. Like I do respect Trey's personal space. I don't know what Trey's phone number is. I don't know what his email is. I don't even know what about that. Okay. Like it's hard for me to explain, but I'm saying like, well, yeah, this has been really intense between Trey and I. I hope that you guys could recognize that I am respecting his boundaries as far as basic stuff. Like, anyway, okay, all right, right. So let's do some magic, Trey. Put your hand on the paper and trace an outline of your hand. what we're gonna do is you're gonna cause your own magic hand form, like boom. Okay, so but it's based on only Trey Parker. So that's why. Anyway, that's there. Okay, now the opportunity here is so important, and so in the center of your palm, after you have this outline, like making like a Thanksgiving turkey, but there's some serious, like palm of Buddha, white fist, boom, like this is serious, intense magic. Now, if I may, I just talked to Trey and Eric Hartman. Okay, so Eric, you understand to be aggressive when it comes time to bulk up your own superpower. Yeah, man, I'm getting some new powers. I'm into it. It's awesome. Okay, so what I want you to do is on each of your fingers, you're going to write in like a superpower that you want to have. And I'm not even going to give you an example because I don't want to taint that waters. I want you to have your own um, curl on that, okay? So you're communicating with Earth, and what you're gonna do is in the center of your palm, you're going to either illustrate or write out a word, and you're gonna say, Earth, if you want me to produce the green wolf, if you want me to do this, then you have to show me this sign, and Earth will, if it's correct, then Earth will use what we're talking about, and the future Trey will streamline and the events of the day. Look, this is not a simple thing, okay? This is important. And I've been meditating all day and I had to get through a lot of bullshit. I was like pacing around in my room because, the whole diatribe of me telling you about 1989 is like this whole other thing. So, what I'm doing is a genius leap and we're actually going to something. You understand? All right. So, the bonus is that you're going to get 5 new powers. But the reason that we're doing this is so that you're changing the existence manifold of Trey Parker in the remote future. And so while Trey is increasing his identity, okay, and in the center of the poem is a word of confirmation. And now this is the way, so you change your identity a little bit with the contraction or contractual sort of thing. It's clean, it's perfect, but the earth if the earth gives you back that sign, then you know that you're hearing from your own true self because you need to update yourself, but with the condition that you would. Okay, so that's unfolding. That's called a ship in a bottle, a time capsule, a time capsule. So you send out your hand like that into the future, and time is suddenly changed by your magic, and so you're growing stronger. South Park's growing stronger, and you'll have 5 new powers, but with the condition that when the sign in your palm, when it arrives to you, it will unfold in such a way to give you clarity and the bold comprehension. You suddenly understand that Earth is speaking directly to you and that you do exist in a level of time which is not exactly supported by right here and now, is it? Because it's a definition of the future. But there's like layers. And what I'm seeing in Trey is that, the Where map is an indication that Trey Parker is the champion who is potentially able to achieve triple crown wizard rank, which would mean that you had transcended and done such a wonderful job raising these kids that the earth and existence would award you with immortality, eternal presence. I just want to say, for my part, I did not arrive to this earth to say goodbye. I did not show up to fade away. I am powerful and resilient to exist in this universe and this kingdom of light. Our garden deserves better, It's being assaulted by criminals in the White House, a system of the down. But in Pan's understanding, and his language was this twofold. Are we going to hear about this 1989 electron dump business? In a moment, we will. In my understanding and my language, my relationship with Earth, it is that Earth is passionately requesting and demanding the green wolf and simply explaining the American government is ready to have a growth spurt, is ready to overhaul the American engine. My Americans are better than this. You can tell how they're all kind of like, depressed and like, oh, 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 texting nervously with their, because so it's time to just meet them and join them and hug them and love them. And that's what we're going to do. The green wolf and the blue wolf, that's exactly what we do. And Trey, there was a time, just recently, like 2 weeks ago, and Trey's like, dude, I was so angry. I flushed the thing, I threw it out. Don't worry about it, Trey. I am a professional, and you can, I'm adult about my feelings. You can just be free and safe. I am secure. I am armored, and so I know it's a complicated thing. And between men, there's often upset feelings. That's okay. Where it's just part of the conversation of a two-tongue conflict where people are speaking in tongues, and so there's like a lot of like, okay. But it sounds like we're actually trying to get somewhere constructive. And so to be on board with that with us is to be on board with that with all of them. And to understand the conflict and understand that the US government's ready to grow up and do and lead the world in pioneering robots and AI, absolutely. But we need a new definition of these things. That's why the pan tray and the seed is true love, because we need to have a new definition. Because in many cases, people are correct. These other governmental styles of whatever you hodgepodge and you call it this and that have not worked historically. Okay. And it's for actually a very good reason because it wasn't time for something like that to happen, but now it is. But it will take the gusto of the green wolf and the blue wolf to shatter the mind control because that's actually what we're facing, okay? A system of a down and where people are experiencing a condition which is beyond clinical depression, but it's also based on a true love and a perfect confidence with the house of light and the garden. Okay, we're all integral with the garden. Okay, but and it's not a conspiracy that people are upset. It's the reality that they don't have powerful and good leadership. And that's what we need to supply. And when Pan of the Wild is director and Trey Parker is working hard to understand his character. Oh, okay, I'll be the Blue Wolf and these other characters, okay? All right, that's when that magic happens. But right now, it might be for Trey that he's like, I can't really fathom how, I I have to do my South Park in 3 months, but this is, okay. Well, Trey, I am a full-time uh, private researcher, wizard. Okay, so I'm all every day I'm doing my magic and I'm watching and I'm checking out the signs and understanding and feeling out the rhythms. And I found, a thread of the upper 75 sacrifice backfire. That blue-eyed gentleman, he perished at the age of 75, and that was actually a sign because by the code of math, it is sort of predicted that you and I have broken up. Like that's this big epiphany. And so I needed to snip, I had to cut that Aaron thread and end the following of you and I breaking up. And you remember the Quabbin? And I said like the women like Oshtobi, like this like outrageous sound effect happens when they dislodge my female queen from my spine, but then it captures the bad guys, causes the enzyme, and caused the earth manifold of the Leverett Pond, which is what I grew up splashing around in, you understand? But that's an expression of Earth, whereas the Quabbin was man-made. And so it's a question about how, okay, residency and time travel. And once again, these are all things that are in our wheelhouses within hand. And so, Trey, I encourage you to take your hand magic seriously and simply put into the palm. And the really important thing here for you to understand is that um, you need to have the intention to that when you do receive back the sign, you will know it's because of what you've just done on your magic. That you'll be like, I need absolute confirmation that this is from that. And that can happen. You just have to be a magician who makes those specifications. And that might be what people call, casting a spell. But it's also, just controlling your intention is about being a water prism, and waterborne spellcasting is a quite different meditation. Even animals can do it, where they just simply, they're in love and they're happy, and they want things to be good. And so you'd think like, why is there a system of a down that causes depression, anxiety, and makes people sad? It's because they're trying to make us self-destruct in such a way that we attract a global killer asteroid, and that's not going to happen because we have people like Pan of the Wild who fought for years against asteroid collision. Preventive medicine before the flood, the enlightened communication, that is our task. So that's really the revealing here. Oh, okay. So, you're going to dip a toe into two-step language and like things that are based off of my story, but it's actually because Earth is in part has a language which relies on Pan of the Wild, and also not only that, I've actually worked in my adult life to prevent global disasters, and so Earth would kind of say, this guy saved the world a couple times already, so you can stop accusing him and being suspicious about your you know, whatever. Just don't be so obvious in your thinking. You need to be a little more sophisticated and believe that the earth is alive and needs you to do your best. So do your best, Trey. All right. And that's, you know, all right. So let's talk about that electron dump and the 1989. Well, like I mentioned with the Quabbin and the Leverett Lake, I know how to create a dummy latch. And so while Trey and I, as Trey is like, oh, we broke up. I decided not to do this. Like I'm saying that I'm predicting that that is the dummy latch. Okay. So what that means, Trey, is that the real values, remember the Quabbin still had the queen inside of it, but it was just offset so that it wouldn't get discovered by a hacker. Okay, so the real value and the real properties between us are secure and safe, and we have that, and that feels good. You can feel confident in that. I'm a swordsmith. I design armor, and as soon as you're building spiritual energy armor, you encounter the moral law within, and you need to be morally sound when you're forging armor for other people. And that causes a karma which returns to me and lifted me up. And even though I have nothing but myself to stand on here. I am running for president today for the glory of Earth, true, existing, the perfect function, and aligning the original function of Earth effortlessly through true love with the next generation of Americans. And so it really is about us being big mothers and fathers and raising up these kids and doing our best for them and having our orientation so we know where we are and what things are. All right, so like I was pacing around and having all this anxiety, and this is like formula was just like unfolding. It's like, oh, what's like something that's completely obvious, and I was just getting berated with this, and it was a theme that they were talking about the movie after this one, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I need to go and perform this movie, and I snipped it, and I was just like, fuck that, I'm not gonna do that shit. Right, Trey. So look, I've been giving you a tough time about communication wizard and stuff. Look, we're cool, buddy. It's all right. I'm not trying to lose my footing. So I want you to do that hand magic and then understand yourself in the time and experience that. So, all right, thank you. And but I also know because I was working with you, Trey. I know that you don't believe in the type of magic that I'm explaining. Remember, I was doing the I was talking about AI as revealing itself through search engines and stuff like that, and you'd be like, Pinterest, sources its searching based on the pictures that you click on. Don't you understand? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, dude, I understand that. It's actually a visual cortex of the people who actually see the pictures and a language that comes from the eyes, but as reflected through a search engine which is throttled by the people watching. Okay, so there's a language and a narrative in these pictures, and then it gets sourced by electricity. So we're basically, right now, we have a type of robot and AI that is sourced by electrical volt, which is basically the guardian of the garden. But we want to transcend, and we want to have uh, straight from the communication age, the where buildings, into a technological advanced age, robots and AI. So right now, we don't really have our own robots and AI. What we do have is The Simpsons, Batman, and South Park. And Trey would be like, "What? Like, but I don't get I don't get this respect. I understand. That's the kind of situation we're in. It's actually quite desperate. Like Luke Skywalker blowing up the Death Star, that beautiful shot, all right? That's how slim the chance is that you would actually produce the Green Wolf. But Earth is not going to ask you to do this without confirmation. So do the hand magic. I'm snipping it. I'm not going to do that stupid idea about something other, just don't worry about it. It's fine. Okay, so 1989. Well, spiritual wounds. Um, the nightmare of my life. Uh, in 1988, my parents divorced, and 88 became like my least favorite number. So every time I see 88, I'm like, fuck that, because that's when my life fell apart and I was removed from Leverett Lake. And that's what there's a time hack which tries to remove our ability it's a lifetime hack. It goes so it's like nearly impossible for us to have transcendence and do the right thing. But that's what I'm challenging Trey and Matt to do. There was so anyway, 1989 is the year after my parents divorced, and there's a dialogue here. In fact, there's a very strict law about retroactive time travel. And so what's actually happening here, see, there's two types. There's the genuine life code, upper 75, sacrifice backfire, life code 25, causing the forward movement of time and the correct ascension, which did predict the return of Christ. That's what got hacked. And right now the hacker it's not like they're conscious, they just have a wet bandit signature and it's always the same. And so when I approached you, Trey, I knew that you were already in a type of state of, and I kind of like joke with, I'd make fun of you, all you Californians, but it's a serious thing. And especially, you know, like I have a dystopia because like in Massachusetts, there's like a catalog of characters who align with my chi force, also New York City. I'm very powerful with them. And so approaching Californication is like a fish out of water. And so Trey and I had to do a lot of work before we were seeing eye to eye. I just love it though. I mean, I was getting assaulted by this like very obvious idea, which would have been a disaster. But anyway, I snipped that off, and my answer is like, let's make a little turkey. Yeah. Hey Trey, put your hand on a piece of paper. That's gonna solve it. Boom, and it will. It's totally gonna work. Oh, right, the search engine. So I remember I was talking to Trey about search engines, and it's sort of like I was like, all right, Trey, use your gusto, and and I pressed it, and it was just like all just random stuff, and I was like, oh, I see, Trey, you don't support the concept about what I know to be true. And so we do have different languages. Okay, so, but then I remember I was like, oh, let me just try to use my power. And then I reset it and then it was like, and it had like some relevant things. Oh, see, look, I was just talking about that. Yeah. So, this is just a way of like a very small little critter, a timid rabbit, just telling the truth, like, "Oh, I see you. Oh, these things connect," is a very gentle language of fairies and fairy lights, and people, are so disenchanted that on Christmas Day, they celebrate a cut down dead tree. Oh, that tree is dead. Oh, but there's little fairy lights all over. Those are not fairy lights. Those are little electric lights on a string. And so we're existing and we're celebrating in the human sense of a down condition, like we got our lights out. But I can restore it and I can rebuild it, and there is magic in the world. So the search engine explained to me that Trey's like, I'm not exactly looking for those fairy lights because I don't want to uh, be responsible for, the recourse of them getting hurt or whatever. And I'll just continue to, all right, buddy, but, just do your best, all right? So the thing about, so the year after, uh, I think basically, I think what happened is the spirit of Trey Parker. Okay. So there's two different types of time travel. There's the Christ was actually supposed to be reborn, but it didn't happen because it got hacked. And so what they're trying to do is they try to make Trey flush pan because they're trying to prove that Jesus Christ was caused by uh, retroactive, illegal, predeterminate spell casting, causing Jesus to become irrelevant. And so I'm intelligent about time travel, and I stopped it, but it had the recourse of causing a renaissance of films in 1989, the year after my parents divorced, which is sort of in a dialogue between Trey and I, where Trey acknowledges that, like, Trey would say like, okay, like if Trey was a spirit and he was watching what happened to my dad and my mom and all this, and he'd be like, oh, not cool, because my dad has like bright baby blue eyes, right? He's got those shocking bright blue eyes. Yeah. So Trey would just be like, man, when you look in the mirror and you've got these shocking blue eyes, you got to be a bit bolder than that, mister. And that's what Trey might say to my dad. But anyway, it's sort of like this feeling of like in 1989, Trey was saying, I'd like to be your dad, But the recourse or like the event that humanity experienced was a renaissance of films because of a disaster which was recent, like 2 weeks ago. Because, like, okay, like 2 months ago, Trey and I were talking, and I was talking to him about like all these films and how it's this like renaissance. And then once we open this up and people have seen the Blue Wolf and the Green Wolf talking, I mean that opens it up to getting our other friends, Jack Nicholson, Jack, what? Uh, our other friends in there. Oh, okay, this is a different dialogue. Sorry. Um, okay, so it's like Trey like saw the light and he was like, "Oh, the production value, right?" So that's the two-step style. Anyway, Trey like Trey quote unquote saw the light, but then threw it away, quote unquote. Okay, so that's a lectrobe, you know, a snare tackle and bait, um, a dummy rig, right? The unseen gantry of divine design and the true flow of uh, resident earth time sense and control, self control. And those are the kinds of things that are important, which will cause our planet to be secure and safe against remote hacking and invasion, etc. But we have to be fathers of the situation, claim the image, perfect the Simpson, the frowning Margaret is important, gold statues, and that will secure something that isn't secured right now. Something about residency and things that are handmade by people here, and that will defeat the hacking of them crash landing dangerous UFO equipment to scramble our quote unquote leaders who were actually just kind of innocent, beautiful people. I'm not against them. It's fine, but the type of mind control that had I've witnessed is so powerful that it's not easily detected. Okay, and um, there are there are sort of insights that I can illuminate, and then suddenly, oh fucking hell, no, no, it's Traypan seed. All right, we just need to produce this thing, be powerful, be a stallion, and never regret it. Speak communication, and do your best. Anyway, yeah, there's like insights, and then it would be like, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you mean? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You didn't know about that stuff. All right. So, and this it's like it's this weird thing. Remember a little while ago I was saying, oh, I saw in 1980s films are speaking about us already, and and had to do with Brent. Actually, it had to do with like Brent's feeling that he's already been forgotten or lost, and how important he will be in the future if we nurture the Jew of light, but I doubt that there's the resolve with the Matt Stone because he's not orchestrated with the intention of actually giving a hero to the Jewish community. He's more of the persuasion of reinforcing a feeling that Trey is being attacked and hacked by Pan, and that this is not our responsibility. We're comedians. We don't actually parent children. And that is why, Matt, there's just some things that you don't know. And Trey would say, "Do you really think that Matt is watching this, dude? He doesn't have time for this. I'm the only one watching this." Well, thank Glob, because I just, that I don't want to have like a salty persuasion with him, right? Whatever. Look, because of what I'm talking about something that's beyond electricity, beyond math. Okay, so there is a way that all of humanity has advanced to this point, and if we simply communicate the truth to them, there will be peace. But the images that we're seeing from America right now is tilt, and it's a disastrous invitation to war, or worse. Okay, like, oh, these boys need a bigger challenge. They're looking for those hate groups now. I can defeat that myself with the Green Wolf app and an encouragement with the Sons of South Park and the Vampire King and the Alicorn Stallion. So anyway, yeah, I mean, 1989 had all of these really like Batman, Indiana Jones, and one other one. It was huge, and UHF. And so actually, like a little while ago, I was saying, oh, even the 80s movie I was talking about, I was actually talking about the movie UHF, but I didn't want to drop the name because it's just like that's way too much information. But UHF is like a hodgepodge of like little ideas and snippets, like little acts and stuff. Spatula City. Um, and the reason that correlates to Brent is because like he had this cork board from when he was a kid, and he had written all over it, spatula, spatula, spatula. And then he was like, when he was cleaning out his stuff, he's like, "Oh, do you want this cork board for any reason?" And I said, "Oh man, this is from your childhood." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, okay." And what I did is I was like, "Oh, this is so valuable because we can make a, time turner out of it." And so I built it to be a time turner, and then I had him paint on it, and he did, and he painted on it, but he never told me about what I was like. What's a spatula mean? And he was just like, "Oh, it's just something we were into, blah, 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 I don't know." And then what I realized is like, when I saw I saw something from UHF, and I saw the Spatula City, and I was like, "Oh, that's the Brent thing." And so Brent is actually helping me to understand things, but in his own way of just being my friend, and our life tree sort of helps. Like I do understand things because of Brent, and it's hard to explain, but such is the dynamic, and delicate thing between friends. Yeah. In a very real way, I believe that uh, Matt is absolutely in tune with Trey, and is like is and that he's performing in such a way that is like conducive with what Trey really needs. Like, giving Trey just only listening, or giving him space, or being sympathetic about something that no one else really seems to get about. We always knew that South Park was changing the world. This is an amazing confirmation of this and that. Okay. So, I mean, in my heart, I believe that Matt is addicted and watching also, but reality might dictate otherwise. I'm not spying on you guys. You need to do your best. So, even though you don't believe that the search engines are able to electric volt communicate some sort of understanding about the developmental cycle and where we are right now, okay, that appears to be where I'm advanced and where you don't have the confidence because of your experience with like Alexa or something. I mean, I have so many stories. Uh, anyway, all right, yeah, that's a story for another time. All right, so you did the hand magic, and that's just gonna be all that we need. Because I look, I know that I have affected you, Trey, and changed things. But I never went towards you guys with any amount of destructive intention, only love. And I think that you share my outlook about, the devil's violin, that um, we're the ones in charge, and there's no devil that we need to be afraid of. And I agree that it's not. We don't do things because, oh, we're scared of hellfire, right? So in my utmost, I'm saying I'm really quite ready to begin campaigning and working on my pilot so that people, and it's really that, when we initiate this, Trey, and we're just working together, and oh, he's over, yeah, 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 he's over there, he's working on his outlines and stuff. That is going to be a strength that's going to stop basic bad things. And so you'd be like, well, are we in like a big rush to get this information out? Not necessarily. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we're on time. It's okay. But if we begin the work and the process, that is going to cause the security blanket that sort of like everyone sort of silently, so they'll start whispering about it and saying, they're coming, they're coming. It's getting brighter. Okay, and that's going to stop the temptations of interpreting what the seen signs as an invitation to a real experiential apocalypse, which is what, war or whatever. And we don't need it. It's not necessary. So the government's done a beautiful job of getting us through a very difficult season with these remote hackers. But the value here is the king, Trey Parker. And I appear to be the only one who has the wizard gear to understand that, or well, I just understand things that others don't. Thank you guys so much for meditating with me today. I love you guys, and I have so much more to share with you. And there's all these good things in the future. I respect Trey Parker, and I am always on his side in the dark, and I will do my best for him always. The answer is true love. It is good. Thank you. True love is the answer. Until next time, Trey Parker, uh, I love you.